from Home Free do you want to tell us? We've just been, I like the metaphor that, I mean, we are sponges.
Mm-hmm.
And people have just really been pouring their stories into us, and then we go back and we just like.
Well, I guess to me, what I would like you to hear is one of our clients' stories. And we don't have a great. I'm trying to think who's down there today. And Earl's down there today. The one that we met yesterday, and he is, he just looked so wonderful yesterday that he might be that might be a really great story.
Okay.
And so if he could tell you his story, then we could kind of talk about, how what we've done here to sort of interface with him. Because he's just an example of who our clients are.
And what is, just to get some background, you are the program.
I'm the program manager. So I started the program.
Okay, and when did you start it?
We opened our doors here a year ago, October, whatever year that was. And it was a year of. It was a very scary year. I mean, there was a long time. I mean, I can remember looking at people and saying, "So what can we become stupid? We keep, that we're not." But then we started to get more clients, and that's mainly because of tours. When they discovered us on tours, but we used to get drug court referrals or referrals from the and that, and that's not all our clients are, but that's our bread and butter.
So it was, so a year October, so you're a year and a half old. So what was, were you just not happy people didn't know?
Well, first of all, we struggled with insurance because we had absolutely normal structure to get our drug customers to come. So we have state insurance, which is we go there for insurance company, not covered a grant or and so they didn't want to do that. And then once we figured that out, then we talked to my so there's two.
What, and so you guys offer free substance abuse counseling? Okay.
Doesn't cost that much. Come up now. We cost that. And it's very difficult here. It's really not free to talk to people about insurance. And most of the time people that come in don't have a well, we do have a job.
What was the change?
The first year we looked, there were some. Well, one of the things that happened at the beginning of the year is that the Medicaid money used to be managed by different, they call them managed care organizations. So, I might have Maryland Physicians Care, you might have JIVE, you might have United Healthcare. It's all still Medicaid money, but you pick an MCO. Now, all the mental health and substance abuse money goes through Value Options, and they're just a much more organized company, and we were able to, things just ran more smoothly. But I think that might have been an Obamacare issue too, that it's easier to get signed up for health insurance. Because, now you get fined if you don't have insurance.
Right.
So they had to kind of make it a little bit easier.
Right. So how many clients does Home Free serve right now?
We have, on our busiest days, between 15 and 20 attending. We have more on our records who might not show up, who've been referred, or, not everybody comes on the same day. So I could ask Naisha how many we actually have who are active clients, but I bet we have somewhere between 35 and 40 active clients. But on a, on a busy day, we never have more than 20 that would be a big deal. We generally have about 15.
And so what do they, when they come here, what are they receiving?
So they come for group therapy and individual therapy. And in substance abuse treatment in general, and certainly for us, we just really believe there's a lot of power in the group, because it's not about one person kind of telling another person what to do, or about one person even counseling another person. It's about, you know, a whole group rallying, you know, around people. I've had one client who used to call us the family. He said, I don't call it the group, I call it the family. And it really is. We have one alcohol and drug counselor downstairs who's an older man, and he does a very good job at building this this group. He's very skilled, and they're very supportive of one another, and they like to come. They, you know, they feel sad when they're not here. Not that they don't find other things to do, but it's a really great atmosphere. And so in group, you have not only you and I sharing from our individual experience, which might be helpful to one another. We also have people, you know, supporting us. So if I come in and I have relapsed, you know, I have my group there, you know, kind of rallying around me and problem solving with me, and you know, that kind of thing. Or, you know, calling me on my bad behavior, you know, which is much more powerful than just an alcohol and drug counselor saying, you know, you should be really doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you also mentioned yesterday that you also offer the mental health.
Yeah,
counseling as
so
well?
because I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, my one of my friends who comes here and sees clients is a psychologist. Our clinical supervisor is a psychologist. Our clinical director is a social worker. So we kind of all have a mental health kind of focus. So that's, and you can't. Another thing that Maryland did recently is made all their mental health and their substance abuse come under one umbrella, because they really have recognized that those things are so intertwined. You really can't treat one without the other. So, and I don't even know how to make a separation, but I can prescribe medication for, you know, clients that you know, for whom that's appropriate.
And so, what is your background? Like, what made you want to start Home Free?
Well, I think ever since I worked in the emergency room, and I've always been a psychiatric nurse, but ever since I worked in the emergency room, and I realized how prevalent addiction is in Baltimore, and how many of our problems, you know, kind of harken back to the fact that, you know, we have such a substance abuse problem here. And I also find it incredibly rewarding to provide treatment for people who want it. You know, it's very frustrating to deal with people who are in active addiction who don't want it because of the lies and manipulation, and, you know, it kind of goes along with that. But when you have people that really want it and are broken, and you can say, oh, I have something that can help you, it's really rewarding. So, you know, I guess, and then this is probably more information than you want, but my son gave me this book, because we have a mental health practice. My business partner and I, we do group just therapy and medication management and acupuncture and things like that. And my son gave me this book, and one of the things that you're supposed to do in the book is imagine your funeral and what you wanted people to say about your business. And I realized that what I wanted people to say about me is she found something that worked for substance abuse treatment. And I said, oh, well, that's what I really need to be doing. That's the direction that I really need to go. So that's kind of how we started this. Now, my thought was we would do a lot of complementary and alternative therapy, and we would do yoga and acupuncture and exercise and plug people into community service projects and things like that. But my staff, it's kind of hard to get them, you know, into that mindset. They really like, you know, just talking in groups and that kind of thing, and that's good too. Now, I have another counselor who's a woman on the other side of town, and she's very much more. She does a lot more hands-on things. I mean, she had them today out behind the building a fire so that they could write things that they wanted to forgive themselves for and throw them in the fire. You know, so she likes to do stuff like that. But I still have trouble getting everyone to make the jump to. I've had someone to try to come in and do like sort of yoga, but it's a hard sell, and they all complain about it. All the clients complain about it.
So is it when you're working with substance abuse, and like you were saying, like she found something that worked for substance abuse, what do you think is not working, and what do you think is succeeding?
That's a huge question.
Because if you're in this business, and I have to remind myself of this all the time, the results are so abysmal, that people that truly are, find recovery and stay there, that you have to be very satisfied with small results and small practice and small progress. I don't know that I can even say that this doesn't work. I think there are a lot of things that work against recovery. I think going back into the same situation that you came from, having family and friends that that are not supportive or that are still in active addiction. The reason that I think that we're always pushing 12-step programs because evidence does show that 12-step programs work, and so people who really do work the steps and live the lifestyle of 12-step programs, that works, but sometimes it's really hard to get people to understand that because they go to meetings and they don't like it and they're bored and they don't understand how much more to it there is than that. I think that unemployment and the fact that felons are not given jobs works against people because a lot of our clients are here because they sold drugs. You see all these guys on our corner down here, and it's just everywhere in Baltimore. So, again, with more information than you want, probably, there was a time that in Baltimore there were a lot of working class families that lived here and worked here and supported their families. But when industry pulled out of Baltimore and that was all outsourced, it created a big problem. So lots of people sell drugs in Baltimore to support their families. And when we get referrals from parole and probation, people who've been incarcerated for selling drugs, and we try to plug them into something else, often it's very difficult. We have people who are really, really well qualified for employment, and their background check comes back and it is checkered, so they don't get the job or they lose the job that they've already been hired for. So that works against people too, because it's very hard to sell drugs and not use drugs for some people. For some people it's not, but for a lot of people it is. I have one client who was able to not use anything for 3 years while he's still packaged up. He would get a bag of heroin and he would package it up and sell it, and he would get $100 for that. And for 3 years he was able to do that, but now he can't do it anymore. He just can't stop using it while he's packaging it up, and so, but financially, that's a big problem for him. He can't do anything else. He's older. He has a lot of health issues. So employment is, lack of employment works against people too.
We were talking with someone yesterday who said that in her neighborhood, which I think is outside of Sandtown, but close to Sandtown, that there was a drug dealer who had a boxing recreation center where kids would go after school and box and hang out there. But the man who owned it was arrested and then incarcerated because of his behavior. And so his facility was closed, obviously, and so you lose then that place for kids to go after school. So there's this, yes, they're dealing drugs, and like you were saying, but this is how they make money. This is how they feed their families. This is how they provide after-school programs for kids.
I can remember one of my clients in group saying that he was out there selling drugs because he didn't want his mother out there selling her body, which is often the way women make money to support their habit. So he was selling drugs in order to buy drugs for his mother because he didn't want to see her out there.
Mm-hmm. So what do you say to people who say things like that, who have those stories?
I guess you say things like, I understand. I understand how hard that is. And then it certainly creates an incentive to try to figure out, ways to make that happen, ways to, people to connect with, Sometimes I say to myself, do we just do it ourselves? Do we just start an employment program ourselves? Because I can't,
Yeah. Then we've also heard about the Red Line and trying to get transportation from places that don't currently have transportation to be able to transport people from where they live to where they might be able to work. So what keeps you coming back